Hey everyone, how's it going? Well, okay, if you're a Justice League fan, I might know how it's going. Not great. Yeah, this has not been a good time to be a Justice League fan. Besides that slap in the face that was Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, the live action film bombing, and when it comes to the Snyder Cut, well look, if you like the film, that's cool, but to me, it was like patching up a tire fire. Sure, it'll get you to where you need to go, but the drive is gonna be long and still a bit unpleasant. And then there's the animation department at this time, which varies on being either really good, mid, but usually being pretty bad. As for TV, had one show canceled after one season. Then there are the comics, which weren't bad, but it did come to the point where DC decided to retire the title for a while after its last big crossover event and focus more on the Titans. My point is, the League isn't as prominent as they were back in the late 90s and mid 2000s, as during that time we had both the Grant Morrison run and of course the Justice League animated series, first airing in 2001 and semi-wrapping up in 2006 with its sequel series, Unlimited. Much like the DCAU shows that came before it, this series would be the cause of a whole generation of comic fans, and tell stories that are both fun and exciting, like the episode where they help Green Lantern on trial, or even adapt something like an Alan Moore story that even he likes, which to those who are new, was a big deal regarding Moore. As I mentioned in my review of Batman The Adventures Continue Season 1, we would return to the DCAU several times, mostly Batman related, which made sense since he was where the whole series began, but we would come back to the League, like the Justice League Beyond comic in 2013, and even have their own animated film in 2019 with Justice League vs. the Fatal Five. So the love of the team was still going strong, to the point where, like Batman the Animated Series, got a comic that would bridge the gap between Justice League Unlimited and Batman Beyond in 2022, though by the time of this review, only got one story. How'd that turn out? Well, let's look at Justice League Infinity and find out. Warning spoilers. Our story begins with the introduction of a classic Justice League villain, Amazo. To those unfamiliar, Amazo is an android that was created to replicate and counter the powers of the League, though unlike the main universe, besides the more simplistic design, this Amazo evolved into a higher form of being and kind of became somewhat of the Dr. Manhattan of this universe. By the end of Unlimited, Amazo began to search for purpose in his new life as an almost omnipotent being, and we immediately see that he's still on that journey, traversing beyond the universe and eventually encountering a strange door in the middle of it all. Does this mean he's gonna have to babysit Bill Mummy? As Amazo goes through the door, we see fellow Justice League member, Martian Manhunter, who by the end of the series began his own personal journey as John Jones started to worry he was becoming more detached with the people of Earth, and by the end of Unlimited actually got married, which I'm guessing didn't go well since he never mentions her again. I don't know, maybe she died. Because John in his journey has taken things to a whole new level as he has adopted multiple personas in living multiple lives. Think Roger Smith, but less of a horny nutcase. This is an interesting character study regarding what it means to live, but let's put the deep, thought-provoking concepts aside as the Flash is having a birthday party at the League's Earth base that was introduced in Unlimited's first season finale. The party is actually a good way for readers to either be caught up or reminded on what happened in Unlimited, like the love triangle between Green Lantern John Stewart, Vixen, and Hawkgirl, the statuses of some heroes like Booster Gold and Elongated Man, and hey, nice! Ted Gord Blue Beetle finally joined. But the biggest one is the conditions of the new god planet Apocalypse, as by the end of Unlimited, they're going through a civil war and deciding to drag the League into it as both factions try to take them out to prove dominance. And usually something like this would be a whole story, but this League has gotten used to this and it's more like pest control. And the League takes them out with ease. With the villains defeated, the team clean up the damages, and later Superman spends a romantic night with Lois. But then a Nazi shows up. No, really. Turns out Amazo didn't end up in a room with some creepy kid or Rod Serling, but instead a plane known as the Mirrored Room, that when he interacts with, warps reality and swaps Superman with Overman, a version of Superman that serves the Nazis, who was first introduced in 2007's miniseries 52. And while Overman is lashing out and threatening Lois, Clark is trapped on Overman's Earth, which in the multiverse is usually referred to as 10 or just X, who is run by, you guessed it, Nazis. And because they have a Kryptonian on their side, that also means they got alien technology to back it up. Meanwhile, Lois is surprisingly doing better dealing with Overman. Turns out Superman gave Lois a kryptonite gun just in case of this scenario, causing him to flee. Meanwhile, John notices something strange going on as one of his friends disappears due to what's happening in the Mirrored Room, and gets ready to step into action and help the League deal with Overman. Back on Earth X, Superman teams up with Resistance that consists of heroic versions of Superman villains like Metallo, Doomsday, and General Zod. Fun fact fact, this version of Zod was based off the post-crisis Zod of the early 2000s, who was a human who gained Kryptonian-like powers. This was back when DC was trying to keep Superman the only Kryptonian around, though that fell apart by the time Kara showed up in Superman Batman. However, those two Earths aren't the only ones dealing with the chaos, as we discover that one Earth, known as Earth D, which was actually created by the legendary writer Marv Wolfman, is also dealing with the chaos. How will they deal with this threat? How will Superman escape this dark reality? And what will this mean for Amazo as he steps further into becoming essentially a god? Well, you're gonna have to read to find out. This comic has a lot going on. It has multiple stories going on simultaneously, while also trying to catch people up on the history of the DC animated universe after Unlimited. But luckily, they never overshadow each other and knows when to give each story time to breathe and develop, so when they all come together, it feels balanced. The comic was written by J.M. DeMatteis and James Tucker, both very talented writers, with DeMatteis' most famous work arguably being the Spider-Man storyline Kraven's Last Hunt, and has done several DC animated films and shows, with of course Just Like Unlimited being one of them, as he wrote the amazing adaptation of The Man Who Has Everything. Tucker has worked on most of the DC animated projects since Superman the Animated Series, and has worked in Warner Brothers Animation since 1991 with the lesser-known series Tasmania, which damn, never thought I'd have to bring up that old gem. Nevertheless, they are both talented writers who have experienced writing these characters, and like Batman the Adventure Continues, they haven't lost a beat. Now of course we move on to characters, which due to the fact that we have a lot of them, I'm gonna cover the League altogether, though mainly focus on Superman, John, and Wonder Woman, as they do get the most focused out of everyone. Superman in here seems to be more laid back in comparison to how he was on Unlimited, where though good-natured and still trying to be the symbol of hope the people need, he was also far more serious, given what was going on with both Cadmus and later the Secret Society. Both threats at this point are now either neutralized or just gone, so he's a bit more at peace and more wiser, especially as he fights back against Overman's forces and inspires the people to fight against their oppressors. While Diana, though I can't go into major details due to spoiler reasons, has an interesting journey as she sees how different the multiverse can get, and even begins to reflect a bit on who she really is, especially when confronting an alternate version of Hades who in the DC animated universe may or may not be her father. Which, okay, off topic, but anyone else find it weird that every time they want to make Diana interesting, they try to make her the daughter of some god from Greek mythology? Like, in the DCAU, they hint that it might be Hades. In both the New 52 and the original DCEU, it was Zeus, and in the Earth 1 line of comics, it was Hercules. Look, I'm not trying to discredit these comics and films. They're good on the most part, but one of the things that made Diana unique was that she didn't have a father, that she was completely a child of the Amazons, and that she was a hero not born but forged. I'm sorry for the mild rant. I know I'm not the only one who's been saying this, but I just had to get this off my chest since I feel the Justice League animated series unintentionally started all this. But still, at least it was more implied and not confirmed like others. Anyway, Wonder Woman is pretty on point. Then there's Jean, who has a very interesting journey, as though he left the League to find himself and connect more with humanity, he ends up on a journey that gives him a chance to see and connect with life in ways he never expected, but as he does, he fears that he might end up coming back even more detached. To save the lives of the people he's grown fond of, he's gonna have to fall back into old habits. He even reveals that he had no intention on ever returning to the League, and only came back because his friends were in danger. He's definitely the heart of the story. As for the other League members like Batman, Flash, and John Stewart, they're mostly support, though in the case of Green Lantern, we do see further development regarding the love triangle between him, Vixen, and Hawkgirl, which is fine, but honestly not as interesting as this side story was kind of already spoiled with, Batman Beyond and Justice League Beyond. Next, we got one of our big bads, Overman, who has a very interesting case of identity crisis, as writers are never really sure how they want to write him. Some writers like to just make him Hitler with superpowers, while others try to make him an unknown victim of the Nazis and was just naive enough to believe their lies. And here they kind of go for the latter, as this version was raised by not Hitler, but Vandal Savage, as a callback to the TV special The Savage Times, where the League time traveled to World War II to fight Vandal Savage, who overthrew Hitler and almost took over the world. Which is an amazing special, especially if you're a lover of classic WW2 comic characters like Sergeant Rock. But in regards to this story, this direction ended up feeling like a bit of a rehash for the DCAU fans, as we already saw this with both the Superman animated series episode Brave New Metropolis and the Justice League 2-parter A Better World, both amazing episodes that dive into the dictator/evil serial Superman concept in an interesting way. Well, at the time, nowadays it's become really overplayed and worn out. And here though, he's just kind of passable as a villain, but honestly, his role is actually more interesting than himself. Hell, with the Resistance being heroic versions of Superman's rogues gallery, I was kind of left wondering why they didn't just make him Ultraman and his world Earth 3 and have Superman fight the crime syndicate. Finally, we have the other big bad, Amazo. Though mostly unintentional in his actions, like John, he started his journey trying to find himself, but begins to lose himself in the mirrored room as he gains the power to warp reality in ways he never thought possible. Though unlike John, who had years of experience with both the life he had on Mars and later on Earth, Amazo never really had a connection with humanity, with the only influences in his life being his creator, Professor Ivo, Lex, and then Dr. Fate and Aquaman. And even then, they all had very different views on humanity, and some were so detached from it that it wouldn't give him a reason to really care about them. Now, there is more going on with him as he does realize he's being manipulated, but I won't spoil who though. I'll just say that once they are revealed, it becomes one of the first and only times we ever see this version of Amazo show fear. What else can I say, but like the League, Damas and Tucker nailed this character. As for the other support characters like Lois and the Justice League of Earth D, and the other villains cropping up in the story like the Apocalyptians and Vandal Savage, they're nicely handled and they all feel like they have a good reason to be there, especially Lois, who really gets to kick ass. The art was done by Ethan Beavers, who like Ty Templeton has experience with the DCAU, with Beavers actually being one of the storyboard artists of Justice League Unlimited, and did the art for the tie-in comics. He really hasn't lost a beat when drawing these characters, and clearly loved designing the new characters, as he adds some rough sketches and concept art for some of the new designs on the back. Also, kudos to Nick Filardi, who did the coloring here, as he really makes the colors pop when they need to be, but also shifting around when they have to go to other universes like Earth X and Earth D, or even the Mirror World and beyond that. On a whole, I definitely recommend Justice League Infinity. If you want to see something like Batman the Adventure Continues but on a greater scale, this is definitely the book for you. Sure, there are some plot lines that are a bit predictable, like the stuff with Vixen and Jon Stewart. However, the main story is definitely going to keep you interested, but hey, look beyond the stars and find out for yourself and check it out. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates. Next time, we leave the DC universe for a bit to see A Savage Time, where a savage world is saved by not a barbarian, but a king. Later.